be seated. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
So based on a central principle of the Parsha, where God says to Moses, I appeared, Va'era, as El Shaddai, and now I'm going to appear as Yud He Vav He. I was not known to them as Yud He Vav He. And what is that name? How do we say it? Well, one way we can still say it, or we're always saying it, is with our breath. So I want to invite everyone to take time during my sermon to become more aware of their breathing. And very intentionally invite us all to, if we can do it, take a deep breath. That breath, it isn't just oxygen. It's our connection to our Creator, our neshama, our power. When Moshe stands up to Pharaoh for the first time and tells him, God says, Shalach et ami, let my people go so they can serve me, Pharaoh hardens his heart. He doesn't just refuse to free them, he makes it worse and decrees that they have to build the cities with bricks now that they have to collect their own straw and make the same amount of bricks. When they're unable to do this, they're beaten by the taskmasters. And it got so bad that when Moshe told the people that God heard their cry and was going to free them from slavery and return them to their homeland, they couldn't receive the good news. It says, Velo sham'u el Moshe, they could not listen to Moses. Why couldn't they listen to Moses? What prevented them from experiencing that glimmer of hope? Mikotzer ruach, it says. Kotzer means shortness or crushed, and ruach means breath or spirit. So kotzer ruach means shortness of breath or crushed spirit. The great medieval French commentator Rashi explains that if one is in anguish, his or her breath comes in short gasps, and they cannot draw long breaths. They could not listen to Moses and God to imagine anything would get better because of their shortness of breath, umeavodah kasha, and from the grueling work. And so too, when we're stressed, when we're feeling trapped and overwhelmed, our breath becomes short. It's just automatic. Probably happens to us all throughout the week, and we're not able to fully pay attention to it. We forget who we are and what we're capable of as we lose that breath. We lose touch with our divine spark. Last week, after 471 days of captivity, 3 young female hostages, Romy, Emily, and Doron, a soccer fan, a dancer, and a veterinary nurse, were released in exchange for 90 Palestinian prisoners. And 4 more young women, ages 19 and 20, are reunited with their families this Shabbat. Thank God. Karina Ariev, Daniela Gilboa, Nama Levy, and Liri Albag. It's almost unbearable, the anticipation of joy, while we're simultaneously haunted by the fact that 94 souls still remain in captivity and that we're still at war. We're suspended between immense relief and an aching pain, with hostage families waiting and watching the news, not knowing if they will be holding their loved one in their arms or having to bury them. Should they prepare a celebration or a funeral? Will there be tears of sadness or tears of joy? And so our people are unable to move forward toward redemption, mikotzer ruach, from shortness of breath. Over the coming weeks, 33 hostages are expected to be released at an agonizingly slow trickle in exchange for nearly 2,000 Hamas prisoners, many who are convicted murderers, who Hamas is counting on them to return to their work. We're praying that the ceasefire holds so that the healing of these families and ultimately the rebuilding of Gaza can happen, and Israel as well. When Hamas emerged from the tunnels in their black masks, their green headbands, and big machine guns, they were swarming around the vehicles. We could see that they had recruited many new people, 15,000 new recruits since the war started. Standing on top of the vehicles that the girls were inside of, and as if they were in a street parade after winning the Super Bowl, shouting, Allahu Akbar, God is great, louder and louder. How can we breathe deep when we know that Hamas is still recruiting new fighters. So much pain and fear and disgust. And yet so much joy on the other side as we watched Emily Damari look into her mother's eyes for the first time. Did anybody get to watch these videos? I feel like I must have watched them like 10 times. They were holding each other for dear life with her bandaged hand and missing fingers. Am Yisrael Chai. We may not feel it here in Burlington, but in Israel, images of the hostages and their family members are everywhere, all over the media and political scene. When you're in Israel, you feel it, that ancient fundamental principle of our people, Kol Yisrael arivim zeh bazeh. All of Israel is responsible for one another. We've always been a small yet mighty nation, such that when one of us deeply as they're members of our family. Throughout our history, so many Jews have been taken captive and ransomed or sold as slaves, that the mitzvah of pidyon shvuyim, the divine command to return captives, is a mitzvah that takes precedent over everything because it involves saving a life and because of the principle that we're all responsible for one another. And for this reason, we will not be able to heal nor move on and feel a sense of hope until all the remaining hostages are back. We're bekotzer ruach, we have shortness of breath. And then Elon Musk, who has been known to amplify anti-Semitic tropes and themes of the extreme right on social media, when he did a fascist salute at the inauguration of Trump. We're still trying to breathe. Is he truly a Nazi? Or is he just trolling the left, just pushing the acceptable norms to the point where nothing a politician does or says will matter anymore? Regardless of what he intended, a chapter of the white nationalist group White Lives Matter took him very seriously when they posted on Telegram that day, "The white flame will rise again." All of this as we're witnessing the concentration of power and wealth in this country, unlike we've ever seen in our lifetimes. On his first day in office, Trump signs a flurry of executive orders, including revoking a birthright citizenship to immigrants and stating that the country officially will no longer recognize transgender or non-binary folks as legitimate. With the stroke of a pen or a Sharpie, he caused trans and non-binary people in America to feel more invisible and short of breath, living in fear of losing their basic rights as Americans and their dignity as human beings created in the image of God. What can the Torah be telling us about the connection here between our breath and our freedom amidst all that is happening today? Excuse me. If shortness of breath is what holds us captive and prevents us from imagining a better path ahead, perhaps this means that the moment we reclaim our breath is the moment we begin to breathe free, is the moment we begin to break free. Breath is life. Breath is an expansion and connection. The reminder that we are bigger than our circumstances and that Hashem is breathing us into being in every moment with love, guiding us through it all. When we breathe and we sing together in shul, as one voice crying out to God, we can begin to reclaim our power and our souls again. Let's take another deep breath together right now. This breath is your neshama, your soul. The Hebrew word for soul is the same, neshima, neshama. As we're really breathing and paying attention to that feeling of life entering as we breathe, that breath is our power, it's our key to freedom. Because when we breathe deeply, we can stop being slaves inside. When we stop being slaves, we can truly set others free. This Shabbat, may we remember the power of our breath and our collective voice. May we maintain our awareness of what's unfolding in the world without being a slave to the 24/7 unrelenting news cycle. Let's give ourselves a fair diet of not too much news every day so that we can continue to breathe. Instead of scrolling through the news feed, please, God, give us time this Shabbat to pause and reflect and remember and appreciate moments when we felt powerful and free, when we were able to breathe more deeply. Last Sunday afternoon, we gathered in the kitchen with our neighbors from the Friends Meeting House, many of whom are leaders in the local anti-Israel demonstrations. We gathered with them for some very simple activities to make bread together, bread for peace. We baked challah and pita and sold them to raise tzedakah money to support first aid and emergency medicine for Israelis and Palestinians. We sang songs of peace while we baked. We shall overcome. Olam chesed yibaneh. I've got peace like a river. I was listening to some of the conversations, and it was really wonderful to hear that people with very different perspectives on life and on the war were just talking about whatever they felt like talking about freely, breathing freely, their families and their homes, where they came from, all sorts of normal things. And I think it really gave them a chance to see the humanity in each other, which for me was one of the points of doing this. When national politics feels so overwhelming and crushing that our spirit and our breath becomes short, it is through local friendships and partnerships like all of us here. It is through that we can begin to find our inner freedom. Exile is not just a place. It's a condition of being in which we are closed down, shut off, unable to receive, unable to activate our imagination. It's a state of being stuck and folded into ourselves, unable to open to the presence of each other. Despair, it offers a false sense of protection against the future pain by closing us down in advance, lock all the doors so we can wallow in our suffering. How do we emerge out of this place of narrowness, of Mitzrayim, of Meitzar? One clue comes from Nachmanides, the Ramban. If impatience leads to shortness of breath and despair, practicing patience and trust and breathing deeply together is our path out of it. In the Torah, God does not demand anything of the Israelites at that moment. They can't hear about the love that God is promising. So God starts the process of offering signs and wonders and signals, slowly peeling away the layers of their doubt, melting their despair and hopelessness. Watch, God seems to be saying, I'm going to take care of you. It's okay. You will be delivered. You will get out of this. All you have to do is be patient and trust and breathe my name. Breathe deep. There will be more asked of you very soon. But for now, just breathe together. The Israelites will be told to pack up everything they have, leave everything they know for an unknown future on the other side of the sea. But for now, in the slow movement from slavery to freedom, the Israelites are just asked to show up, to witness God's love for them, and to slowly open up for the possibility of change as they breathe deep and say God's name. Shabbat Shalom.